The silence in the control room was thick with tension as Captain Jonah West studied the vast, glittering void beyond the viewport. He knew every star out there held secrets, but none more pressing than the shadow now approaching on the edge of their sensors. The Intrepid drifted quietly in an uncharted sector of space, the only sound the hum of its life support systems, and the occasional ping from the navigation panel. "Captain, I've got movement," Engineer Kira Reyes murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Her fingers flew over the console, eyes narrowing as she focused on the faint outline of a ship. No, an entire fleet. Her face lit by the glow of her screen, Kira looked both exhilarated and apprehensive, her curiosity gleaming behind the worry in her eyes. West leaned forward. "Confirmed?" he asked, his voice a low rumble that carried authority and an undercurrent of excitement. "Confirmed," replied Navigator Lynchen from the far side of the bridge. His tone was steady, calm. Lynn was unshakable, even in the face of the unknown. He adjusted the ship's sensors, magnifying the view until the fleet came into sharper focus. "Looks like they're closing in fast." Kira bit her lip, her fingers clenching the edge of her console. "Are they scanning us?" "Likely," West said, trying to hide the unease creeping into his gut. "Keep shields at standby, and don't make any sudden moves. Let's see what they want." The ship's communication array flickered, then crackled to life with a foreign voice, rich with disdain and amusement. "Human vessel, you have drifted into restricted space. Surrender and prepare for inspection, or face consequences beyond your comprehension." The crew exchanged glances, unease rippling through them. West kept his face neutral, even as he felt his pulse quicken. The arrogance in the alien's tone made his jaw clench, and he sensed the same spark of defiance flicker across Kira's face. "You have a name?" West asked calmly, his voice laced with an edge of defiance. The alien laughed, the sound both mocking and resonant. "Name? I am Commander Sother of the Ravuan. Our technology, our strength, it surpasses anything your kind could dream of. Surrender now, humans, and perhaps you'll live long enough to witness true power." West's mind raced. Surrender wasn't an option, but outright defiance might provoke an attack they couldn't hope to survive. He glanced at Kira, whose brow was furrowed, her gaze steely. She leaned closer, speaking in a low, fervent tone. "We've got something they don't know about, our experimental jump drive. We could slip away before they know what's happening. Unstable and untested," Lynn reminded her, his eyes fixed on the alien fleet inching closer. "If it backfires, it'll rip us apart." West took a deep breath, weighing their options. The Ravuan ships were immense, sleek and bristling with weapons that outclassed anything the Intrepid carried. But underestimating humanity had always been the folly of the arrogant. They had one chance, a slim one, but one worth taking. West squared his shoulders and pressed the calm button. "Commander Sother, we're not in the habit of rolling over. You're welcome to board, but don't be too surprised if you get more than you bargained for." He cut the transmission, then turned to his crew, his gaze fierce. "Kira, get that drive ready. Lynn, plot an exit. We'll give them a show they won't soon forget." The crew sprang into action, adrenaline surging as the alien ships loomed larger by the second. West watched the screen, his mind racing, heart pounding. This was their only shot. The Ravuan were on the cusp of discovering what humanity was truly capable of. Whether they would survive to tell the tale was another question altogether. The tension in the Intrepid's control room thickened as Kira Reyes feverishly adjusted the settings on the experimental jump drive. Sweat trickled down her brow, a reminder of the stakes at play. "It's ready," she announced, her voice tinged with both excitement and fear. "But I can't guarantee stability. We could end up anywhere, or nowhere." Captain Jonah West nodded, the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. "We don't have the luxury of choice. If we wait much longer, those ships will be upon us." He glanced at the sensor readouts, the alien vessels closing in like a pack of predators circling their prey. Each ship gleamed with advanced technology, pulsating with energy, their weapons systems primed. Lynchen, the navigator, scanned the star maps, his fingers gliding over the controls with practiced ease. If we jump now, we might land in an uncharted sector. But we'll be out of reach from the Ravuin. He paused, his expression grave. Or we could end up in a sun, Captain. It's a roll of the dice. Kira straightened, her determination crystallizing. The longer we wait, the more dangerous it becomes. Let's give them a show. If we're going down fighting. She met West's gaze, the fire in her eyes matching the urgency of the moment. West's lips twisted into a wry smile, appreciating Kira's fierce spirit. That's the heart I need right now. Lin, chart a course to the closest asteroid belt. If we make it, we can use the debris to mask our energy signature. On it, Lin replied, his fingers dancing over the controls. The sensors beeped, and he added, 5 ships are still approaching, and they're not slowing down. They're underestimating us, but I don't want to rely on that. The control room vibrated as alarms blared, warning of incoming fire. The Ravuin had begun their assault. Brace for impact! West shouted, throwing himself against his console as the ship jolted violently. A red alert flashed, illuminating Kira's tense features. The viewport showed bright beams of energy slicing through the void, narrowly missing the Intrepid. Shields at 50%! Kira yelled, her fingers a blur as she manipulated the power distribution. We won't survive another direct hit! West clenched his jaw, calculating their chances. Prepare for hyperspace on my mark. Kira, divert all remaining power to the jump drive. Lin, keep the asteroids plotted and ready to engage at my signal. Captain, if the drive fails, Lin began, worry lacing his tone. Then we go down fighting. We don't let them take us. West's resolve hardened. The hum of the ship resonated with the weight of his words, uniting the crew with a shared purpose. As Kira reconfigured the power flow, the ship shuddered again, and alarms blared with increasing urgency. We're losing shield strength. 2 more hits and we'll be exposed. Now! West commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. Jump! With a final surge of adrenaline, Kira initiated the sequence. The ship lurched violently as the jump drive roared to life, bathing the control room in a blinding light. For a heartbeat time stretched, the crew was flung back against their seats, the ship vibrating as the very fabric of space twisted around them. Then, with a bone-jarring thud, silence enveloped them. The Intrepid emerged into the vastness of a strange star system, surrounded by a dazzling array of unfamiliar celestial bodies. Kira gasped, her eyes wide as she monitored the readings. We made it! We're... But her excitement was cut short as the warning alarms blared again. Captain, we're not alone, Lin said, his voice tense. A new fleet of alien vessels emerged from the shadows of a nearby moon, their weapons systems powered up and aimed directly at the Intrepid. Damn it! West cursed under his breath, heart racing. Prepare for evasive maneuvers! The crew braced themselves for the fight of their lives as the Ravuin advanced, and a chilling realization settled in. This gamble had only just begun. The Intrepid trembled under the weight of impending conflict as Captain Jonah West barked orders, his voice cutting through the clamor of alarms and the frantic energy of his crew. They had barely escaped one threat, only to find themselves caught in the crosshairs of another. The alien vessels, sleek and menacing, circled them like vultures, their hulls shimmering ominously in the distant starlight. Raise shields to maximum! West commanded, gripping the edge of his console as the ship shook from a close blast. Kira Reyes was already on it, her hands a blur as she redirected power to the energy barrier, her brow furrowed in concentration. Shields are holding, but not for long, she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. We've got 3 ships on our tail, and they're targeting the engines. Lin, plot a course to the asteroid belt. We can use the debris to our advantage, West instructed, his mind racing as he tried to think several moves ahead. Lynch nodded, his fingers dancing across the control panel. I'm on it, but if we don't act fast, we'll be nothing more than space debris ourselves. The closest asteroids are light years away. Kira shot him a glare. So we just sit here and wait for them to pick us off? No, we need to fight back. Focus, Kira! West interjected firmly, keeping his tone steady. We need to be strategic, not reckless. Right now, evasion is our best option. The ship jolted again, and Kira clenched her jaw, frustration evident on her face. We could disable their weapon systems. If I reroute power from the shields. Too risky. Lin cut in, his voice sharp with urgency. We'd leave ourselves vulnerable. Another blast rocked the Intrepid, and the warning lights flashed crimson. We're losing power! Kira exclaimed, her fingers racing over the controls as she fought to keep the ship intact. West's heart raced. The Ravuan were relentless, each shot a reminder of the threat they posed. Kira, how long until the jump drive is recharged? He asked, forcing himself to remain calm despite the chaos around him. 30 seconds, if I can maintain power, she replied, determination lacing her words. But we won't survive that long unless we do something now. With the alien ships closing in, West felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. He took a deep breath, recalling their earlier success in the first jump. They had come too far to falter now. All right, he said, steeling his resolve. Kira, prepare the jump drive, but I need you to create a distraction first. Can you overload the main weapon systems? Kira's eyes sparkled with defiance. I can create a feedback loop that'll disable their targeting systems temporarily. It might give us just enough time to jump. Do it, West urged. Lin, keep an eye on their movements. We'll execute on Kira's signal. The seconds ticked by as Kira worked furiously, sweat beading on her forehead. The ship lurched again, and she barely kept her footing. Just a few more seconds. Captain? Lin called out, his voice laced with urgency. They're adjusting their course. They know what we're planning. Stay sharp. West shouted, scanning the viewport. The nearest Ravuan ship was veering toward them, its weapons charging. Kira, now! With a fierce determination, Kira pressed a sequence of buttons, her eyes narrowing in concentration. Overloading now! The console flared to life with energy, the ship vibrating as the feedback surged through the Ravuan systems. On the monitor, a moment of confusion flickered across the enemy vessels as their targeting systems began to fail, beams of energy veering wildly off course. Let's go! West yelled, seizing the moment. Jump now, Kira! Kira's fingers flew across the controls, initiating the sequence. A brilliant light engulfed them, and the ship lurched violently. But as they slipped into hyperspace, a chilling realization gripped West. The feedback loop had only bought them precious seconds. The Ravuan would adapt quickly. There was no guarantee they would remain safe for long. They were not merely fighting for survival. They were battling an enemy who would not give up easily. As the stars blurred around them, West felt a surge of resolve. They would turn the tables, but first they had to discover what the Ravuan truly wanted, and what they were willing to sacrifice to get it. The Intrepid emerged from hyperspace with a jolt, stars exploding into view like distant fireworks. Jonah West's breath caught in his throat as he scanned the new star system. A dull, pulsing light glowed in the distance, illuminating an array of debris and scattered rocks that hinted at a recent battle. Status report, he barked, gripping the edge of his command console as the crew scrambled to assess their situation. Kira Reyes leaned over her terminal, her brow furrowed. Shields are holding at 70%, but we're losing power in the weapons systems. The feedback loop took a toll. She paused, biting her lip. We need time to recharge, Captain. West nodded, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. How far are we from the nearest habitable planet? About 3 light years, Lynchen replied, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. But we can't go there without risking detection from the Ravuan. They'll know we're vulnerable. Then we hide, West decided, pointing toward the debris field. That wreckage might provide us with cover while we regain our strength. The ship lurched as they navigated through the scattered remains of other vessels, twisted metal and fragments of lost battles swirling around them. Kira stared out at the debris, her eyes narrowing as they passed the hulking alien cruiser, half buried in the remnants of its former glory. Captain, she said quietly, What if they left something behind? Some intel that could help us understand the Ravuan strategy? West considered her suggestion. A risky gamble, but it might be worth it. If we can figure out what they're after, we can turn the tide. Lin's eyes flicked from his controls to the wreckage. We'll need to act fast. I'm detecting energy signatures nearby. They could be sending out search parties to locate us. Kira's heart raced as adrenaline surged through her veins. Then let's make it quick. West nodded, rallying his crew. All right, Kira and Lin, suit up and prepare for a quick boarding operation. I'll stay here and keep the ship ready for a rapid exit. The two exchanged a determined glance before heading to the airlock, their hearts pounding in rhythm with the urgency of the situation. As Kira secured her gear, she felt a twinge of anxiety. What if we run into Ravuan? What's our plan? Lin shrugged, a confident grin on his face. We improvise. Like always. Kira rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a smile. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. They stepped into the airlock, the sound of sealing hatches echoing in the small space. Kira activated the outer door, the vacuum of space greeting them with a rush of cold air. Stay close, she whispered as they floated into the debris field, maneuvering around twisted pieces of hull and scorched fragments of alien technology. The cruiser loomed ahead, its dark silhouette stark against the glittering stars. They approached cautiously, Lin using his thrusters to guide them into an open hatch, the gaping entryway resembling a maw ready to swallow them whole. Once inside, the atmosphere felt heavy, saturated with the scent of burnt metal and ozone. They moved through the wreckage, the faint glow of emergency lights flickering ominously in the shadows. Kira's heart raced as she activated her suit's scanner, a soft beeping filling the silence. Nothing yet, she muttered, frustration creeping in. Just remnants. Then Lin's voice cut through the gloom. Over here! I found a terminal. It might still be operational. Kira rushed over, peering at the flickering screen. Lin began tapping away, attempting to access the data. If we can pull up their last communications, we might discover what they were after. Suddenly, the ground trembled as distant explosions rumbled through the cruiser. Alarms blared to life, and a cold dread washed over Kira. They found us! We need to get out! The ship shook violently, and the lights flickered out. Kira felt her heart race as darkness engulfed them. Lin! She shouted, panic edging into her voice. We have to go! As if in response, the walls around them erupted with sound, the unmistakable thud of boots and the harsh chatter of alien voices. The Ravuan were boarding. West's voice crackled through their comms, urgent and strained. Kira! Lin! Report! We're compromised! Kira shouted, fear clawing at her insides. We're trapped inside the cruiser! Get back to the ship! Now! West commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. As they prepared to flee, Kira exchanged a desperate glance with Lin. The enemy was closing in, and time was slipping through their fingers. They had to escape, not just for themselves but for the fate of humanity. With one last look at the terminal, Kira turned, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The battle for survival was far from over. It was only just beginning.